Good afternoon, everyone. Peace and blessings and happy Sunday. Welcome to our You Glow Girls, The Journey. I'm so excited about this segment. We haven't been with you guys for a while, but today is going to be one awesome discussion. You know, You Glow Girl is a subsidiary of The Red Streak. And we are happy to be here today with our guest panelist, Miss Bleu Lashell. She's going to be discussing her own personal journey in a couple of minutes. Now, listen, we've often heard the term, it's the journey and not the destination. And in actuality, that term was penned by Ralph Waldo Emerson, but we've heard it quoted so many times. And what does that mean? What that means to a lot of us is as we pursue our life's goals and our life's purpose, it is important for us to stop and to live in the moment and to take in the lessons that all of these experiences teach us as we strive towards our goal. And as I stated before, today's guest panelist is my sis, Miss Bleu Lashell. A couple of things about her. She is the CEO of No Hair, No Fear. And part of what she does with that organization is bring awareness to alopecia, but she also encourages and inspires others to embrace their natural beauty. The other thing, because I see her a lot on Facebook, the other entity she's a part of, she's a co-founder of Black Abundance Group. And Black Abundance assists others in financial literacy and credit restoration. Did I get that right, Bleu?
Yes.
So Miss Bleu is a busy woman, but I am so happy that she's here with us today. The other thing is she's a native of Miami. Y'all know I like the 305. I'm gonna always shout out my hometown. And this is one of the young ladies we grew up basically together in church, on programs, singing and preaching and just having church. We're both PKs. But you know what? The other thing is that we are so much more than that. And so today, Bleu is going to share with us the steps and the experiences that led her on the journey to becoming Bleu. Share with the people, Bleu.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. And I just want to give it back to you for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform. It's such a pleasure. And I just want to say to all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And we are really appreciate for all your support. And we love you. I just want to put that out there too. So Bleu Lashell, I want to talk about I want to just say my first name, my real name, the government name is Rosalind. And I want to speak about the little girl Rosalind, like what she had to experience, at the age of 13, all the way up until I would say, my mid 40s. I'm gonna give my full age, but yeah, but I'm just excited to talk about her. She has been just basically quiet for years. She experienced so much pain, so much hurt, and the first pain that I want to talk about is the year of 1989 and 1990 when I got pregnant. And I hid my pregnancy for 7 months.
How old
And
were you, Bleu, when you got pregnant?
I was about 16 years old.
Okay.
16 years old. And there were some other incidents or other things that had took place prior to that, molestation that I never talked about. And I shared that with my mom, I would say about 4.5 years ago. I'm not going to go into detail. I'll just give more information, in my book. But, being molested at the age of 13 and not really having nobody to talk to and tell, I kept that to myself. And then when I got pregnant, I hid the pregnancy for 7 months and nobody never knew. I used to walk around the house with a pillow in front of me. I got on rides. I used to wear girdles. And because she said earlier, being a pre-K daughter, is you have to go through a lot. You have to put on a certain image. You can't be yourself. And my late father, he was very, very strict, very strict.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what motivated you to keeping it a secret. Why didn't you feel comfortable sharing it?
because of what I had already gone through. And then
Mm,
two, um, in the church, you got a lot of people in there. They're not really. They say, they for you, but it was a lot of people that talk behind your back, and I
yeah, we
saw
have
it.
to be careful about what we share.
Yeah, so I didn't share it. And then when it was, well, when my family did find out about it, I was at church one Sunday, and my brother called me up, and he asked me, whispered in my ear, he asked me, was I pregnant? And I said yes. And from there, he prayed for me, and he told my mom right away, my parents right away. And I remember going outside, and I just broke down, and my everybody was just like, my family, they was just like hugging me and everything. And after that, my dad, he called me up again and had me to apologize in front of the whole church.
Okay, take a deep breath.
So I had to apologize in front of the whole church.
Share
Yeah.
with us what that was you just felt. Because even though you were 16 at the time, that's been quite some time ago. Yet that emotion is still there. So talk to us a little bit about what you just felt right there.
I'm right now as I share my story, living in Rosalind's world.
Okay.
So I'm living in her world. I'm going through her pain
Yeah.
to share my story. You understand?
Okay.
So you may see me, the eyes full up a little bit because these are pain points that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
So basically, it's almost putting me in a stage of, when I'm acting, I have to live in that character's world. you know.
Hmm.
So when I speak, I want the world to feel what she felt at that time. And
Right.
speaking on Rosalind, and I'll share the reason why I am changing my name to Blue in my book.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the little girl Rosalind. So what I felt was pain, you know,
Okay.
and um, after my dad made me apologize in front of the whole church, sat me on the front row and he silenced me.
Mm.
He
And
silenced
tell
me.
the people what that means when you're silenced, because everybody's not a pew baby like us.
Well, when they silent you, basically you can't do anything in the ministry. You are your pastor's daughter. You're supposed to walk upright. You're supposed to set a certain example. So because this had happened to me, my dad silenced me so that I wouldn't offend or affect no one else in the church. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's the reason why my dad did that. And when he did that, he don't know that he stripped my entire voice. From
Yeah.
that point on, I didn't have a voice to talk. I talked, but deep down inside, I couldn't
Right.
share other things that had taken place in my life. Other disappointments, other tragedies that had taken place in my life. I could not share that because that voice was gone. So, in the midst of all of that, fear came.
Okay.
Who can I speak to? Who can I really trust?
Okay.
Because the people that was around me who say that was like really for me, they talked about me. They told everybody. So I saw that, and these are some of the things that God was showing me, but I didn't really understand. Like, do you really trust them? Can I really rock with them? But I was
Right.
still sharing information, still, okay, well, they're gonna talk anyway. Well, let me still talk to them. But deep down inside, my heart was saying, you know what? I'm never gonna say anything else. If anything else happens to me, I'm gonna keep everything to myself.
Hear
And that's
you.
what I
With
did.
you.
I
Yeah.
kept so much to myself. And like I said at the time, I went on rides. I wore girdles. Youth fair rides at the time. It was like the youth fair back then in South Florida.
Right.
And my cousin, them, they used to come over. I used to cook, hamburgers with them. And they were like, cousin, you pregnant? You correct? I'm like, man, leave me alone. So I had a very, very bad attitude, very bad temper because that little girl had experienced so much pain, right? And she didn't have no outlet, no one to
So
talk
do
to.
you feel that that attitude was your defense mechanism, that wall that you
Yes,
put up so that no one could hurt you again,
yes,
right?
yes. Yes. So I had an attitude, so, when you have an attitude on the outside, it shows up on the inside, it shows up on the outside. So every time I talk around, every time I went around, walk around, people like, oh yeah, she got a bad attitude because my face was always, like, like this,
Mm,
but what I was carrying on the inside. And then from there, I had to deal with, singing in my sister, with my sisters,
mhm.
keep putting on this certain image, this certain
And
look,
what
but I,
was the name of the group?
the miracle lights. The
Okay.
miracle light. So, just minister to other people, but deep down inside, I got my own pain. Deep down inside, I have to see other people speak to my sisters and not speak to me. Because
Wow.
why? I don't know. You know, I've been through a lot. The beauty, I had to deal with people not liking me because of my beauty, how I look. I had to deal with so much pain. And I'm like, and man, why do I have to suffer? I'm going through so much. Like, I'm just like everybody else. But I know I was different. I
And
was
so
different.
all of this time, the period of time that you're referring to, you're not even 20 years old yet. This is just going through your teenage years, yeah?
Yes. My teenage years. Yes, yes.
Wow.
And I went through a lot, man. I mean, I feel like my childhood, that little girl, I didn't get a chance to actually be her.
Okay.
It was taken from me because, like, I don't remember playing with books. I don't remember going to the park. I don't remember anything because all we did was went to church.
Right.
That's all we did was went to church. And I understand, I don't blame my parents or anything. And I'm grateful for the foundation because it has made me the woman I am today, the queen that I am today. But
Right.
all we did was went to church. We didn't have balance. I
Right.
can't remember
Exactly.
a time when we sat around the table to eat supper together. I can't remember a time when we actually went to the movies.
Right.
If we did anything, it was always with ministry, it was always with the church, but never family time.
Right.
And I was looking for that. I was looking for family time with my parents and my father. So, that's the first stage. And the second stage would be when I finally got married in
Okay.
2000. You
And
know,
how old were you when you got married?
I'm probably around about 35, somewhere from there. But
Okay.
it was a beautiful thing. I had me and my ex-husband.
How
I
did you
have
meet him?
well, we've been knowing each other for a long time, in the
Okay.
quartet industry
All
and
right.
everything. It was just one day I was going to Turner Tech and I was trying to finish, get my high diploma for math.
Okay.
And he saw me in the hallway, and he was like, "What's going on? Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "Hey, what's up?" Just shining him off. And then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to you. You're gonna be my wife. So I laughed it off or whatever. And I believe one day he had saw my son in the game, and from there we just started talking, and we spent time together, and we got married in 2008. And
How long did you date before you got married?
I would say about a year, maybe like about
Okay.
about a year and a half. Yeah, but because we had already known each other for a while, and know the history, it just really didn't, take long. But it was a beautiful marriage. Like, I would tell anybody, marriage is beautiful. You
Okay.
know, it takes two people to make it beautiful. And
Right.
I don't have anything bad or negative to say about him because he treated me so well. He
Okay.
gave me another pain point. So he gave me he anything I wanted, he gave it to me.
Okay.
You know, but there was a time, I would say in 2010, I retired from Dade County Transportation. But
Okay.
I was already in the process of, I want to start my own transportation company. And I
Okay.
spoke to him before wanted to do the business. He was like,
And
yeah,
how long had you been married at this point?
4 years. No,
Okay.
yeah. Well, that was 2010, so it was 2013. I would say about 3 years. 3 years, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, um, going into the year, I would say 2010, I was like, I'm going to retire. So 2009, I said, well, babe, I want to go ahead and retire and start my own transportation. So he said, yes. So December, I would say December the 5th, 2010. I'm just like trying to remember the dates off of my head. That's when I put in my resignation. I mean, my yeah, to leave the Dade County Transportation, excuse me. And from there, all of 2011, I just basically worked on my transportation. I, how you normally do. You prepare your business. So
Right.
went out and got all the documents I needed. I went and got my van. I looked for the van, and um, somewhere in 2011, maybe going into 2011, I saw my marriage take a turn for the worse.
And what was that? What did you notice?
He just got really quiet.
Okay.
Quiet. There was not much communication in the home. We didn't really go a lot of places together. And I would ask him, like, is everything okay? Because like
Okay.
I said, I spent all of 2011 just preparing and working on the business because he told me, yeah, go ahead and retire. So
Okay.
I did that. And I noticed that, there was no communication. I would still wake up in the morning, do what wife would do, cook, clean, whatever you wanted, I gave it to him.
Okay.
And intimacy, I want to just put that out there with ladies. I did all of it.
Okay.
And for some reason, he just shut down on me. So I began to, still push forward, move forward. And now we into 2012, and I'm still, waiting to launch my transportation business. And now I say school started in August, September, somewhere up in there of 2012, and I was going to launch it. But I noticed how he started to take just really, really make me really feel bad. So I went and got a job during the Christmas holiday.
What do you mean when you say he began to make you feel bad? So you guys went from being silent basically, and then there was some other
No
kind of
communication. Mm-mm.
communication?
Like no communication. I like to talk. And because we were like this, it's like, man, and every time I went to him and say, hey, is there anything I can do? Or is there, is there anything I've done wrong? He would never talk to me.
Okay.
So because I like to talk and because we had that relationship, we talked about anything, that hurt my heart. That
Okay.
shut me down.
Did you express that to him?
Yes,
Okay. And
yes.
what was his response?
Nothing. It's just quiet. He said, just quiet. I seek for counseling.
Okay.
Could we go get counseling? He didn't want counseling. And then even when we did get counseling, it was really much of nothing that was said. He just was quiet. So
So he
I
never
didn't,
gave you a reason as to why he was so withdrawn?
even after my marriage, I never got the reason until 3 years later, the closure until 3 years later. I never got any closure. So
Wow.
just going through that pain of I still got up and cooked because I called my mommy. I was like, Mommy, I was had to tell her what's going on. Mommy, this is what's going on. Well, he's not talking to me. What should I do? Should I still cook? So my mom told me, yeah, okay. Well, I started cooking. Mommy, he's not eating my food. What should I do? Well, write a note. Write a note and put it on the side of his on the side of the dresser. Let him know food is ready. So I did everything that my mom told me to do. You understand?
Wow.
Because I know she'd been married for so long.
Hmm.
So I did everything that she told me to do. And then I'm like, I did everything as a wife. I saw my mom take care of my dad, so I took on the same pattern as her. So where did I go wrong at?
Wow.
You know? And it was like I say in 2012, like September, October, I say, you know what, I'm just gonna go get a job. Because maybe he's paying all the bills and it's too much on him. I don't know. So I
Okay.
went and got a job. I started working at Target. And then from there, I got another job. I was working at UPS as a driver's helper. And I did both of those jobs. I went to Target at 4 a.m. in the morning. I got off at 9:30. And then I met my UPS driver at 10 o'clock, and I would work all the way up until like 9 something.
And in all of this time, did your husband ever give you any inkling, ever say anything about you getting two jobs? Did he ever give you his opinion about it?
Before I left the house, I was only working at Target.
Okay.
Only working at Target, but it was during the time where we had received eviction notice, right?
Um,
When we got the eviction notice, when I was working at Target, mentally my mind snapped.
mm,
That day, I packed my entire house because why? I had already asked, what could I do to make it better? Was it something that I did wrong? Yeah, I'm kind of feisty or whatever. Sometimes, women. If you're cooking around, if you don't cook, so you don't clean up the house and you want to change the living room around a little bit, and the husband, they don't really do it right away, you get mad, right? You get upset, because I done did everything around the house. Or if the floor is dirty, they don't sweep the floor up. So there were some things I don't know. I thought maybe it probably was he probably got mad because every time I asked him to do something, he didn't do it. I don't know, you
Okay.
know. So being that feisty, person at that time, like, babe, like I'm always doing something. I don't know if it was that, but he never said it at that time.
Okay.
So I didn't get the closure until 3 years later. But as I say that, going back to me packing my entire house, I did it in one day.
Okay. And you said what motivated that was that eviction notice. That's where you said it
Yeah,
was time to move. Okay.
yeah. It was time to go. It was
Okay.
just time to pack up the house because I had already asked like several times. And during that time, I was very numb.
Okay.
Numb, like I had no more life in me, no more energy in me to
Mm.
go forth, to push, to I would say make it work.
Okay.
And and during the process of just asking questions, I remember him saying, because it's like as I'm talking, everything is coming back to my remembrance. And it was one day, I believe he had came home late, and I was trying to talk to him, and he said, and I was like, what is it I can do? And I remember when he stepped over me, I had just got out the bathroom. He stepped over me. He said, I hope you find somebody that's gonna love you for you. And that really did it for me. That really
Mm.
did it for me. So when the eviction notice came, it was just easy for me to. I won't say it was easy, but it was just because I was already numb. It was just like, this is it. There's nothing else you can do.
Mm.
So I packed the whole house. The next day I went and got my storage. And I still had my transportation van. That's all I had. I went and
Okay.
got the storage. And
And
I
about what
remember
age are you at this point, Blue?
I know I was you let me see, 2000, that was 2000 and 2000, oh my God, I'm just losing a brain fart. 2012, right? I don't really want to tell my age like that, but
Okay, well, don't tell your
yeah,
age.
yeah, I don't
What
want to
I'm
tell my
trying
age.
to, what the point I'm trying to make is you're still fairly young.
Yeah,
You're still fairly a young lady, and you've gone through all of these things at this point,
right,
um, where you come to the place where now your marriage is ending. So
right,
this is adding more pain onto the pain.
right.
So at this point, what I want to get to, and I think those who would be watching this broadcast, what was that pivotal moment for you going through all of these ups and downs and challenges and storms and growing pains and all of these things? And every time you went to go try and you're doing your very best to do your best, and it kept seeming like you were coming up short, like none of your efforts were good enough for the life that you were trying to attain at that time. So, what was I don't want to say the breaking point, I want to say the pivotal moment where you decided that I'm going to stop right here on this path and I'm going to pivot and I'm going to make a complete turn because you're not Rosalind anymore. Now you're Blue. So, when did you decide not to pivot from Rosalind to Blue?
I decided in 2017 after relocating from Miami, Florida to South Carolina. I
Okay.
stayed home by myself for 4.5 years.
Now, what motivated that move?
What motivated? Suicidal depression.
My goodness. And now what was the point where you just were thinking about taking your life? Was there a specific incident, or was there that just the culmination of other events?
That's the culmination of my divorce of and other things that had transpired before I got married.
Okay.
So you say that pivotal moment of me. just saying, okay, enough is enough. You
Mm,
know, when I got that divorce, that took everything out of me. It was like it was my funeral.
wow.
I didn't feel like I was
Did
needed
you
to be
feel
with
like you
him.
had failed?
Yeah, I feel like I felt as a wife. I felt like I felt as a mother, and I
Okay.
felt like I felt as a daughter.
Wow.
So it's like, why live? Why live? Why am I here?
Okay.
So that was the moment that allowed me to transfer, relocate to Manning and spend time with my parents. And I just for that whole time I took 3.5, maybe 4 years. I didn't do anything. No work. I didn't do anything.
Okay.
Nothing. I stayed in my room all the time. I never came out.
So,
It was,
okay, this is good. And this one, let me tell you why this is good. Because now you tell me this, but tell me if this is correct.
mhm.
When you say I didn't do anything, you may we might be thinking about something physical, work and doing all of these things, but you were doing something emotionally.
Yeah.
You were doing something spiritually.
Yes. Cleansing.
And how did you do that?
But I just sat with myself, and the first thing I did was I wrote a letter to the inner child, and I asked her for forgiveness. I asked her. I told her. I said, you know what? I forgive you, and basically, I told her no longer we won't give anybody permission to hurt us anymore. We will
Hmm.
set boundaries, and I prayed and I asked God to remove any hurt, any pain that I have experienced at the age of 13
Okay.
all the way up until 45.
Okay.
I asked God to remove any hurt. I forgave the people that who I gave, who the little girl gave permission to hurt me. I
Okay.
forgave them. I forgave them. I had to release them in order to heal her, in order to move forward and know and be the person who God has called me to be. So it's such an honor to be able to share my story. I won't tell nobody here that I'm not emotionally, yes, because I'm speaking about the little girl that was quiet for a long time.
Hmm. And she got her voice.
And I have
And
my voice.
and
I have
you
my
gave
voice.
her voice.
Exactly.
And when did you decide to give her voice?
I decided to give her a voice. It was in 2018, 2019, so up in
Okay.
there.
And what
I
happened
started.
then?
I started going to Toastmaster. I signed up for Toastmaster, and I met some people in up here in South Carolina.
Now
Carolina.
wait a minute. Now, what I know about Toastmasters. Now, I'm putting this little bit in because I've known Rosalind for a very long time, and just as she said, she was always the quiet one. Didn't hear much from you. Now, Toastmaster are for people who talk, right? You know,
Yes,
these
yes,
are people like who are presenters and they're hosts, and they learn how to articulate and how to engage a crowd, if I'm not mistaken.
yes,
So,
ma'am.
what drew you to Toastmasters?
Well, it was one day I was working at Kimball, and one of my coworkers, she was like, you know what? She said, I have something I think I want to invite you to, because I would share my story even now and then. So she said, you know what? I think you'll be really good at this. So when I
Okay.
went there, I meet so many people, and we sit around this table and everything, and now you got to actually tell your story. You got to come up with something funny, and then you got to
Okay.
tell your story. You got to tell the pain points, and then you actually got to summarize it. And they would basically, pretty much time you on, your conversation, basically your interaction with the audience. So I'm like, okay, cool. I think I can do this.
Okay.
So within there, I met like so many amazing people. And one of the ladies who I met, her name was Juanita, and she invited me to speak at her event, and which is Rediscovering Me. And I talked about my story. And basically, I had another event called Go Speak Woman. I was able to speak on that event too.
Okay.
So that's when that moment came for me. That pivotal moment came for Blue to come out. For me to just start talking and for me to share it, my story.
Now,
And
had you renamed yourself Blue at this point?
yes,
You had. Okay. So, where did you come up with the name Blue?
well, I would say I was still rising at that time, but
Okay.
the people from Toastmaster didn't know that Blue was being, birthed.
Okay.
So I was, so that name came from alopecia because I have alopecia.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about alopecia because we know that there's a large number of women who are dealing with alopecia, living with alopecia. So let us know a little bit about your journey with alopecia.
So my journey with alopecia, I found out about like in 2011,
Okay.
and when I noticed that my hair patches started coming out on the top of my head and everything. So anybody that does not know what alopecia is an autoimmune disease, which is that attacks the hair follicles and causes it to stop growing. So
Mhm.
sometimes it comes out of different patches. We have different types of alopecia. Other women they don't have the hair doesn't grow like all over their body. So I have alopecia areata. And when I discovered that I had alopecia areata, it's like, another pivotal moment. I was sad, embarrassed. Most men they like women with hair. So at this
Right.
time, I was wearing my wig, lace fronts, and stuff like that. Sometimes that thing wasn't right there where it needs to be on the hairline. Putting it to the front. So I got picked on a lot of times, but I just knew that I saw them. But I didn't say anything about it.
Right.
It made me feel embarrassed. But
Mm,
at the time when we go onto the stage, it didn't
okay.
feel good.
So wait a minute now. I want to catch up with you.
Mhm.
When you first learned about okay, when your hair started coming out, you didn't know at that time that it was alopecia, right? But when you found out what the clinical term was, then after you got, well, I don't want to say got over the initial impact because it does stay with you.
Mhm.
But when did you decide to embrace it?
I decided to embrace it. It was in the year of 2018, and that
Okay.
during the uh, alopecia month, awareness month, which is
Okay.
September. So it's coming up next month,
Okay.
and we celebrated September the 22nd. So I decided to, you know what, I'm gonna come out and just be bald, be free. So one day I was, running on the track, and I just heard God say, "Take it off," and I'm like, "Nah, God, you playing? You funny, right?" So I just started laughing. And He was like, I just heard His voice that said, "I said, take it off." So I came home and I told my mom about it.
Mm,
And the next morning I got up and like took my braids out, shaved my whole head before I went to work. So
wow.
when I walked out of the bathroom, I said, "Mom, what you think?" She said, "I told you you look beautiful." So this day when I walked to Kim, when I was working at Kimbrough and I was walking down the aisle and there was this couple watching me from the time I walked in the door until I got to the front. And they stopped me. They said, "Wow, you look so beautiful."
Wow.
And I said, "Thank you." And then she said, "Is this something that you wanted to do?" And I said, "I have alopecia." And I said it with so much confidence.
Wow.
And from that moment, it's like freedom, relief, the burden. I don't have to be afraid. So I walk with a, confidence. Hey, it's me. I don't have to hide anymore. I felt good. And
Yes.
everywhere I went, everywhere I traveled, there were so many people telling me, "Oh my God, hello, beautiful. How you
Yes.
doing, beautiful?" So from there, that's where No Hair, No Fear came about because I wanted to inspire other children, women, men, to that you're beautiful with or without your hair, right?
Right.
And society make you feel like that you're ugly, but we are beautiful.
Right.
So that's where blue came about because the color is blue. So I
Yes.
said, you know what? I'm gonna name my name Blue. And so my middle name is Blue. My middle name is Lashell, so I'm going by Blue Lashell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now listen, I know that you do some modeling as well. When was your first modeling gig after you embraced alopecia? How did you get your first modeling gig?
So my first modeling gig was after I braced alopecia was here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I
Okay.
think that was probably like the year. Everything happened between the year of 2019 on up. Like
Uh-huh.
I put myself out there. I saw that they had like a modeling audition, and I just showed up. I showed up like I did before in 2011. I showed up.
Okay.
And still, I was still quiet, still, trying to figure out everything. And from there, I had other opportunities to model, on Lolita Struck Talk. I modeled for Sean. I did a lot of modeling here in Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, because like I said, that everything that I went through, it led me to my purpose. It
Let
led
me
me to my purpose.
let me tell you what just blesses me listening to your story. What blesses me is I'm listening to these experiences that you've had that were painful, that sometimes made you feel ashamed, made you feel guilty, like all of these emotions that you go through when you go through these things, these in your life that you did not have control over
Exactly.
sometimes, and how you did the very best you could and it didn't seem to work out. So you have this pain you're living with, you're carrying this pain, but you still living. Like you still, the fear is there, but then you still have this fearlessness at the same time. There is something that's driving you through all of these experiences that push you to the place where you are now. So,
Yes.
what is that thing that continued to push you regardless of what those setbacks were?
Because, like you said, what happened to me was not my fault, you know? So that thing is basically just sharing my story. After I got with, I got to talk about how, I give it back to my mom. Like, my mom is my best friend. I was able to talk, to share just really how I feel. I was able to, like, be real with her.
Yes.
If I wanted to curse, I did that.
Come
You know,
on. Oh,
like, I'm sorry, like, for real. Like, I was real. I wasn't in this box no more. Like, I
yes.
can be myself. I don't have to be in this box. I don't have to be like sheltered or worry about who's gonna feel some type of way because I'm living my life.
Yes.
I'm living blue now. So, my mom, that she my best friend. I tell her everything. I don't hide nothing from her. And then I
Right.
gotta give it back to the company that I joined on last year. It's a network
Okay.
marketing company. I gotta give it back to my mentor, Miss Michelle Copeland.
Okay.
Like,
Talk
I
to
gotta
us
give it back to
about
those
it.
two women. Like, when she first saw me, I walked in that building, she was like, "Hey, Queen." We like, "Hey, what's going on, Queen?" From there, I knew I was safe because I had been through so much.
Right.
And from there, she told me, she said, "Blue, you got what it takes, Blue.
Wow.
You need to get to the front, Blue." So I got Toastmaster, I got my mom pouring into me, I got Miss Cooper, but she was like, "You need to get to the front." She said, "You need to tell your story."
Wow.
She said, "People need to hear your story." And ever since then, in network marketing. I'm a fall, so I take my time. This thing got to be right. I don't want to mess up. But because of her, she pushed me out there and told me, share your story. Get to
Yes.
the front. People need to hear you. And by me being a financial literacy advisor, talking about credit, I became, I felt good talking about credit, which that was one of the things that hindered me too.
Okay.
So everything that tried to stop me, or that tried to stop me, that made me have fear in my heart, guess what I
Hmm.
did? I conquered that thing. I knocked
Yes.
down the doors. If it took me a long time, I did it
Come
because
on.
I got the power. I had the power to change my own destiny.
Talk to
I
us.
got the power. No longer a situation, a place, a thing, a people will stop me. If that happens, I gave them that permission to do
That's
so.
it.
So now I took back my power. So that's the moment that pushed me into, becoming blue. Share my story. And then I got to give it back to somebody else. Coach Stormy, I watched this lady since 2014. Like, she is powerful. Like,
Mm,
me and her story kind of like similar. This lady said she left Miami, Florida with $150 to went to Atlanta, and she
mm.
shared her story. You understand what I'm saying? And
Yes.
when I listened to her story, and she, how she became multi-millionaire just doing her thing, that's inspiration. I have a lot of people, Oprah Winfrey, Lisa Nichols, like,
Mm.
these women really bless my heart. So why remain in the same place? No. So is anybody out there, just share your story, because God allow you to go through those things, and it's not for us, it's for to bless somebody else. And another thing too, And this is really from my heart. The reason why I'm really, really sharing my story too as well is because I don't want nobody else to experience what I went through.
Wow.
If they need help, I'm going to be there to help them. And
Mm.
one of the things my mom told me to do, admit, admit that it hurts.
Come
If you
on.
gotta yell, if you gotta scream, if you gotta to the top of your lung. Now, another painful moment because my eyes are watery because I can remember her telling me to admit. My
Yeah.
mom prayed for me.
Yeah.
Admit that it hurt. And I believe in finding, figuring out the problem, and let's find a solution.
Come
I don't
on.
believe in staying down long for a long time. That's just something inside of me can't stay down long. Like I'm gonna always bounce back.
Yes.
Always. No matter what I go through, I find a way to bounce back. I find a way. And I want people when they come to me that whatever we talk about, it stays between us. Because
It's
I've been
important.
around people that if I share something with you, they're going to tell all their friends. And now you wonder why everybody looking at you crazy, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so I
Well, I
really
heard
like
you
to go
say
through all of it.
something concerning one of your other mentors when you first met her, and she greeted you and said, "How you doing, Queen?" And you immediately felt safe. That was the word you used. That safe place, because that's what Rosalind did not feel. So you basically lived your life not feeling safe. And when you don't feel safe, yeah, you're gonna have an attitude because you're always gonna be on the defense, right? You're gonna take that with you.
Yeah.
It is so important. I'm so grateful for you. It is so important for us to lay this groundwork because there are so many other little Rosalinds out there who don't have a voice, who don't have a mom that they can be themselves with and pour it all out and show all of the ugly, right? They still have to carry it. But on this platform, Blue, I believe that you are helping others get their voice. I believe you are showing people that they can be knocked about by life, and you can even be afraid, but you
Yes.
can still overcome with all of those things coming against you. I heard that in your story. At this point, as we get ready to wind down, who is Blue now? What is Blue doing now?
Well, Blue definitely is. She's doing a lot of motivational speaking right now.
Okay.
You may not see me on social media, but and in my traveling, I speak to people.
Mhm.
Also, I'm a financial literacy advisor, basically helping an individual go from bad credit to perfect credit. So, is there
Do you
anybody out there?
have a website you want to share?
I'll basically drop it in a link for you.
Okay.
And it's also on Facebook, Blue Lashell at on Facebook. All social media, you see my link there. So and also, I have another event that's coming up September the 2nd. Basically, it's the African Network event, and that is at 6 p.m. That'll be on Zoom. So if there's anyone that would like to attend, please inbox me. And I will be basically sharing what makes a woman a queen. So I'm excited about, my journey of just basically becoming Blue Lachelle, becoming this powerful queen, this goddess, this woman that basically wants to share her story so that she can heal other souls, other lives, and let them know, hey, you can be free. God loves you regardless of who you are. And I feel that, you know, he trusts us with this journey.
Yes.
He trusts me with this journey. So that's why I'm here now. You trust me to be on your platform. I'm forever grateful for
Yes.
this opportunity. All praises go back to God. And I'm so humble,
Yes.
to just be able to just share this platform and share this story with other people out there. And I just want to just leave this with them, just set boundaries.
Mm.
If you're going through something and that situation no longer serve you, you have the power. You have the power to remove yourself. And that goes for a job, family members, marriage where you're not feeling that you are honored and you're, supported. I don't, find a way. domestic violence,
Mhm.
find a way. You know, if it no longer serves you, if it doesn't resonate with
Yes.
your spirit, 'cause you will know. Listen
Mhm.
to that voice. Find a way to remove yourself.
So, once again, I want to thank you, my sister, for gracing us with your presence today and your humility, your beauty, and your honesty, sharing your story or a piece of your story. We look forward to your book.
Yes,
It's going to bless many, just as you have blessed many on today. As I get ready to wrap it up, I just want to echo some of those words to young ladies, women out there everywhere. Don't feel stuck. Don't ever feel stuck in a situation. Um, just like she said, set those boundaries. If
yes,
that thing isn't working for you, whether or not, I know a lot of women stay in situations because they don't think they have any other options. Sometimes you just have to make your own,
yes,
as you heard Miss Blue state on today. So don't ever allow yourself to feel boxed in. You do have options. Be fearless. Love yourself.
yes,
I leave with everybody. Love yourself. This life comes with enough of hate. So
yes,
find that love for yourself within yourself. And most of all, find it in God. He
yes.
loves us all and He's shining through us all. So I'm going to encourage everybody, just keep glowing. Just keep glowing and growing. God bless you and have a great evening.